Call the names. Wake the room. Wake the room. Lulu! Rex! Pomeray! Naomi! Aphasiana! Babbler! Monarch Soul! Jojo! Gray eyes! Fill my eyes! Poets assemble. No masks, no manners. Say it plain or say it broken. Monday night in the garden of enlightenment. Low light lit minds, every line got intent. Clock ticks crooked and the room turns vigilant. Quiet so loud you can hear what the tension meant. Then it slips after midnight, manners get murdered. Nice little masks get cracked by a word or a murmur. Twisted Tuesdays twist truth till it turns on its heel. Clean cut faces go strange when the dark gets real. You can feel that shift, that slick little slip when the grin stays sweet, but the eyes don't sit. Like the room grew ribs, like the walls grew ears, like the hush got hands and it's pulling you near. And the words don't rest, they press, put a heel on the chest, leave a dent in the breath. Every line like a knock from the back of the brain, like you came in one shape. You won't leave the same. Late night poets, where the room leans in, where the sharp gets shown in the soft door dim. Hear the whole thing shift from a whisper in the ribs to a line that lifts from the darkened edge of doubt to the pull you can't ignore. We don't just read the night, we make it something more. Say it plain, say it broken. Late night poets. Wednesday breaks parts and apart, sink down the spine, half halo, half hazard, both hands in the light. Then the art of seduction walks off through the smoke. Silk on the tongue with the blade in the joke books and bards, wakes dust in the depth of the shelves. Old ghosts lean out and start naming themselves in our coffins. All in art, the ache gets a voice, pain stands up straight and makes silence a choice. Then break on through when the dead boogies weigh, when the masses sink but the pulses pray. Echoes in the dark go hunting in the fear, that thing with no name starts ringing in your ear. Say it. Tongue water it down, let it bite, let it bloom, let it burn through the crowd. Bad company grins like a bruise, dressed smart in rhythm and rhyme, puts a boot through the heart. Late night poets, where the room leans in, where the sharp gets shown in the soft door dim. Late night poets, hear the whole thing shift from a whisper in the ribs to a line that lifts from the darkened edge of doubt to the pull you can't ignore. We don't just read the night, we make it something more. Say it plain, say it broken. Late night poets, some come shattered, some come slick, some speak honey with a blade in it. Some sound velvet, some sound wire, some walk in low and take the room higher. Some come holy, some come liars. That's the thing, this ain't feeling for the dead space, no. There's a pulse with a pen, this is blood with the net go. This is breath with a backbone, ink with a crown, loud mics like nerves, truth laid bare in the round. This is the beautiful mess, the bruise and the bloom, the line that cuts clean and makes a little room. Late souls, wide eyes, all nerve in the dark, a room full of hearts beating hard through the dark. Wake the room, wake the room. Late night. make it something more. Late night poets. When the clock slips past polite, we tell the truth. L&P, we love you. Stay frosty.
Good and evil are not black and white. We all have a little naughty and nice. Poetry allows us to explore our dark sides and shine past to the light. We write with demon and angel on our shoulders. This is Part Center, Parts 8, part of Late Night Poets, which is a group on allpoetry.com. You don't have to be on the website to participate, but it's more fun if you are, because you can read the poems as we do, you can talk to us in the chat, and you can see our upcoming contests, which is how you get on the show. I'm Aphasiana, and with me I have Babbler. Hey, Babbler.
Hello. How's it going?
Jinx.
It's going okay. It's been a weird day, but it's all right. Just been very up and down all day. It's okay.
Well, hopefully now you're going into the up part of it, or rather, like, I guess relaxing is also sort of
yes.
So like,
would be nice.
It's winding down in a positive way.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, I just got home from a little author talk. We have this little tiny bookstore that is adorable and amazing, Rosemoon Books, and it they have once a month kind of an activity where, you know, they try to highlight local authors, and there were 5 local authors who read passages from their current books, and it was just really lovely to hear some stuff. It was a wide variety of topics they were doing, and yeah, just seeing, like, it was, the bookstore was absolutely full. Now, the bookstore owner was very modest about it, and she's like, well, you know, everybody's family and friends came, and if you have 5 authors, that takes up the whole store. But I'm like, no, it was nice to see a store full of people there for a reading. I enjoyed it, and I wasn't connected to anyone. I recognized people because, like, you know, it's a small enough city that, like, if you're in literary circles, I've seen you. They meet at my library. And yeah, I was talking to some of them afterwards a little bit, and I joined their Discord, so maybe I'll get writing with them as well and get into the more local scene of writing, which I've always been afraid to do because, I don't know, it's more intimidating with people I know or people who I have to run into all the time, people who know where I work. Whereas, like, on here, I felt more comfortable because I'm somewhat anonymous. I mean, not extremely so, but, you know, enough that if I say something stupid, I don't have to see you tomorrow and be, like, blushing.
Nice.
I had the most awkward moment yesterday because I've been listening to the audiobooks of the series Dungeon Crawler Carl, and there was nobody else in the lunchroom at all. So I was like, even though I didn't have my headphones, I was like, I'll just listen to the audiobook in the corner here. And I'm playing it, and it's like, you know, perfectly fine things. If people overheard, totally fine. Then right at a scene where Donut's joking about Carl having sex with a vampire, that he would, like, be like a walrus, and, like, it's like totally like a weird sex thing she's saying, and the electrician guy walks in, hears that, and is like, okay, and then he's just like, it was so awkward.
Very nice.
Yeah, the perfect timing. It's
like, I swear it's not that weird. Well, I mean, it's weird, but it's not that kind of weird. Never mind.
Yeah, it's not, like, entirely that weird, but yeah, it was just this moment of him looking at me like, what are you listening to? So nice. Just timing was bad. So we have poems tonight, as we do, because that's what we do. Our theme, is the Odyssey. because I'm always a mythology nerd, and having just been to the film, I had it on my mind, and I know my friends are quite torn about how we feel about it, because you know most of us being nerds who are pretty familiar with mythology, and have been reading stuff over the years, and are picky about things, and movies never get it all right. They cut things, they change things. It's I just have a way of I've learned to just separate things in my mind. I'm like, I'm gonna enjoy this as a movie, and I'm still gonna enjoy the written part, and I'm gonna consider them two separate things that just like and they have crossover, rather than be like, this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong, because then I won't enjoy it. So I've managed to like separate that in my mind, whereas a lot of people I know are furious at it for various reasons. So yes, listeners, I know it is not consistent with the original, but you know what? There is no actually definite original, because as much as I've read very old versions of it, that are said to be by Homer, it was first an oral storytelling tradition that people would, tell these stories, and it would go from place to place. And Homer is said to have like collected them and put them together in this way. But then, he did several versions of it as he went around and talked about it. It's the telephone game, things I'm sure changed over time, and the editions we have now, I'm sure, are quite different from way back then. So original is questionable even when reading Homer's text, in the oldest we can find. So yes, it's not pristine for that. I know this, but I still liked it, and it got me thinking about it again. So when we're talking about the Odyssey here, I did not specify what version we're talking about. It could have been like the Homeric text that people read. It could be that they read a newer version of it. There's many different kind of like edits and takes on things. It could be adaptations. It could be the new movie. Whatever version that people saw, I did not specify. What I asked them to do was pick one of the places or challenges that delay Odysseus on his journey home to Ithaca, and write a poem about what you think that part of the story represents. So we have a nice mix of things. And Babbler, I will get you to read the first one. I'm going to post on the board right now. By D. Mercy.
Alrighty. This is The Geography of Longing by D. Mercy. I think an island is a strange thing, to be surrounded by everything and still have nowhere to go. Calypso knew this. She had a home made beautiful enough to make a prisoner forget the shape of a door. Green leaves, salt air, a sky that never seemed to hurry. And then he came, a man carrying Ithaca like a second heartbeat beneath his ribs. She could offer him forever. The island had forever. That was its cruelty. Because what is eternity to someone counting the days until he can go home? Perhaps Calypso was not the monster of the story. Perhaps she was loneliness wearing a crown. Perhaps she was every place that says, stay. Every comfort that quietly becomes a cage. Every hand that holds too tightly because it is afraid of being empty again. And Odysseus, he was not only trying to cross the sea, he was trying to remember who he was before the journey took pieces of him. Ithaca was more than an island. It was a promise, a name he could whisper when the waves became too loud. So he left. And perhaps that is what Ogidja represents, the places we may mistake for destinations because they are beautiful, the people we mistake for home because they love us. and the terrifying truth that sometimes leaving is the only way to find ourselves again. The sea did not ask him whether the island was beautiful. It only asked him where he belonged. And somewhere beyond the horizon, Ithaca was still waiting. End poem.
I really love this one. I feel like it captured so much of what I think that island and that experience with Calypso represented. I vibe with this really strongly. I think my favorite part of this was where it said, oh, now I've lost it. He was trying to remember who he was before the journey took pieces of him. And, needed that time to figure out who he was before he felt comfortable going home. But the thing is, when you're in those kind of places that you're tempted by, you can't really find your full self, which later it talks about how sometimes you need to leave to find that. I thought this was fantastic. I liked the way it was broken up into kind of small chunks, and there are certain parts like stay where that's the only word on that line, and it has like the asterisks around it because it just needed to. That works so well right there. The way that it uses nature here, talking about the ocean that can carry you away, and making it so Calypso isn't necessarily, an actual villain. I mean, like, if it's a woman who kind of trapped him there, drugging him and convincing him he should stay, then yeah, that is a villainous move. But I think that this is more about the temptation of going with what's comfortable and enjoyable rather than staying on your path to where you really want to be and to who you really are, being tempted by a way to escape the loneliness, being tempted by something that's fun after having such a terrible time. Sometimes you grab onto something that feels like wow, someone is interested in me. This is a place that is beautiful, and not taking the effort to get home and to get past that initial kind of shallow temptation. And Ithaca, described as a name he could whisper when the waves became too loud, is just really great. The terrifying truth that sometimes leaving is the only way to find ourselves again. And that is a scary truth. And I think that it is something that this section of the Odyssey does represent. So I thought this was fantastic. It's definitely what I was hoping for out of this contest. So thank you. What did you think, Babbler?
I thought it was very pretty and slow, in a good way. Like it was contemplative in its pacing. And I liked the contemplation on an island, to be surrounded by things and not have anywhere to go. But it is kind of like its own destination, right? I guess it depends on where you want to be, which is kind of the point of the piece, in general. This longing for something, to have something like ingrained in you. It almost reminds me of the I can't think of the right word. The idiom, the saying of, you can take the man out of the city, but you can't take the city out of the man. To just wipe almost everything, but not be able to overwrite, the yearning for Ithaca, wanting to leave. yeah, this, you know, it doesn't matter how nice the cage is. If it's a cage, you can tell that, and it kind of poisons the whole experience. This, um, just because you go somewhere on vacation and it's beautiful and you enjoy it. I'm not saying that this is like, you know, the Odyssey is about going on vacation, but like, you can go somewhere and appreciate its beauty and find like momentary appreciation for that and not want to stay. Um, so to not accept like the momentary dazzle of something. Um, and I think that's said here too, like it's not just about places. The people we mistake for home because they love us. You go somewhere and people love you, but that doesn't make it home. And in some ways, that almost feels itself kind of like a dazzle. Like, do they actually love you, or are you a novelty? If you were to stay, would they still treat you with that same excitement, or is it because you're in town for a week? I think about this sometimes, especially in relation to my siblings, who live in New York. I go and visit them sometimes, and it's always a really good time. And I have so much fun seeing them all, my nieces and my nephews and my sisters, my brother-in-laws, and it's always a good time. And I usually go around a holiday, so there's like some celebration and things to do. But we're politically polar opposites, our interests are like polar opposites. There's a large age gap. My sisters are in their late 50s, early 60s. Um, there's, not much we have in common. So, like, I don't think I would say, you know. uh, yeah. And ironically, they live in Troy. A complete and utter side note that is more about the theme of this contest than it is about this poem, which I thought was a lovely, wistful piece. Is really like my brother and I, when they were talking about redoing the Odyssey, made a joke about what if you remade the Odyssey, but you did it all entirely in the state of New York, because all of these city names are also found in New York. And you made it like a modern thing where it takes someone like 10 years to go through upstate New York just because of like various things that kind of replicate the Odyssey but are done in like a modern way. And it's not like dramatic, it's like comedic and weird. I was thinking it'd be really fun to do with like the cast of The Dropout or something. The cast of Dropout. Anyway, it was just a thought experiment my brother and I had when we were reading about this movie coming out. How hilarious it would just be like to just place it entirely modern in New York State. Anyway.
You should write it.
I think it could be absolutely hilarious. They get stuck in like a beer cave that's run by like a one-eyed gas station attendant. Like you could do like so many different things.
You could. I would watch that.
But it takes like 10 years to get across the state. It's not even that far apart. Anyway.
Now I really want to see that.
They're just like in a van, It's like a road trip movie, but a little more crazed. Anyway.
Write it. I want to read that now.
Yeah, me and my brother, we get on the phone, so we talk for hours with each other about like absolute inane things. So we went into all kinds of weird what ifs and details.
I love that.
Anyway, I enjoyed the poem.
Me too. Okay. Our next poem is The Sirens Sing by Ray Marshall. Sirens sing, and I listen. They promise me a great salary with a lot of responsibility, but I am tied to my position. The music is sweet, but I cannot follow. The sirens sing, and I listen. But I have drunk the wine. I have fallen into the gutter, in a stupor from drinking too much. I know my drinking days are over. I am tied to my sobriety. The sirens sing, and I listen. But I am tied to marriage. I have seen the lives to those who hear the music of good times with beautiful women, and how their lives have washed away. The sirens sing, and I listen to the music of following false leaders. Their false pitch is tempting, but I know that anything that sounds too good probably is. I am tied to my own principles. Odysseus knew to be tied while he listened to their sweet music. He reminded me not to follow, but to be tied to who I am. End poem.
I loved this take. I thought this was a really creative choice to take, the sirens and Odysseus, um, tying himself to the mast to not be tempted by their singing, to not be lured into the sea, and equivocate that with um, addiction, and resisting temptation. To listen to these things that sound really great but understand that they're not. Even this salary, it's there is a lot of responsibility that comes with things. It's funny as you kind of go up the corporate ladder, as it were. As someone who started like in a production level job, like entry level work position, eh, people grouse about their bosses all the time. Like, oh my god, he does this and I didn't like this and this is stupid and all this stuff. And then as you go up the ranks and you start to be more and more involved with top level decisions, you understand why things are the way they are. And the amount of responsibility that sits on someone's shoulders every day. Yeah, I would never want to be a CEO and understand that everyone's job at this company relies on my decisions. And that if I mess up, all these people are out of work. That's a lot. That's a lot to ride on you every day. And to have all these balancing expectations and all these people that like you're supposed to be making happy all the time. Um, yeah, it's not that tempting, I guess, if you know what the job actually is. Like, be comfortable with the current level of responsibility. If you want more, that's awesome, but also know when to stop. And then this, I've fallen into the gutter in a stupor from drinking too much. So then comparing it to resisting alcoholism, um, and marriage, resisting the temptation to cheat or be swayed away. Um, and then this mast that they've tied themselves to is their principles. Is what they think is stronger. It's their moral compass. Is this mast, um, to not be lured by these things. I thought this was a great use of this action as a metaphor. Um, the siren song can be about anything that would tempt you. So. Lovely write. Thank you, Ray Marshall. What were your thoughts, Aphasiana?
I mean, I agree with you. I think this works really well, and the siren song could represent temptation in many different forms. So that this went over several different possibilities of temptation worked well. It had a kind of rhythm to it where there is the repetition of the sirens sing and I listen, and there's the repetition of the concept of being tied to something, and then each stanza has its own important temptation and reason to resist, but it has like this nice continuity because it has the parts that repeat and the parts that change. It flows really nicely. I like that it reflects on, seeing how others are affected. Like, I have seen the lives of those who hear the music of good times with beautiful women and how their lives have been washed away. So I think the being washed away is the good metaphor here. And it's like, if you've witnessed your friends or whoever, doing like the cheating or what have you, being tempted to mess up their marriages, and watch the things that matter to them wash away. They lose the people they love. Maybe they lose custody of their kids. Maybe everything kind of falls apart because of like the temptation of like a really good night. And then to learn that like you see people jump off that ship and swim towards the sirens, and then not really get into a better situation. And then like maybe I should just like stay tied up and like not jump ship for that. And the just knowing to tie yourself to what matters to you. I'm tied to my own principles. I liked tied to who I am. And it makes it less of like I'm tied to responsibilities. It's like I'm tied to what matters to me. And just not being swayed by, instant gratification. I thought this was very well done, and that it did a great job of showing what that section of the Odyssey could really be about.
Yes, an allegory. Well, a good one.
Yes, for sure. And what do we have next? You found it. Good.
I did, and I posted it. I'll give this one a read. This is Triptych, Blood of Odysseus by Bass Monkey, which I really want to say Bass Monkey, because Brass Monkey. Anyway, it's a clever username. But it should be Bass Monkey, I think. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, if you care. All right. This is Triptych, Blood of Odysseus. 1. The past is war. The past is war, a heel upon the necks of men, while blood cascades like summer rain upon these rolling sands. And we that lead, what crowns our heads but slaughter, sowing seeds to stony ground, to harvest pyres of ash from streams of ice and fire. So who was I? No lord of war set on this land, my artifice, my sleight of hand, set hungry sails to home. The past is war. 2. Visions of home. We make our way through storming seas of fire. The gods of men spit fury from their sky. Each promised land another rock of ire. Each haven harbors one more way to die. Now those that we deny reap human lives. To them, just pieces in the games they play. How cursed am I, the one that yet survives, to find myself returned to home one day. A leaf adrift on waters of the flood, to Ithaca the vagabond returns, to claim a bounty washed in idle blood, and warm my hands within as it burns. These 20 harvests past my tragedy, sing me, O muse, a song of savagery. 3. Yet still they sing. To die one day as all men must, in tombs of stone or beds of lust, a life described, a prophecy fulfilled, and from the veil these ghosts of war step out upon another shore, to sing once more of how our blood is spilled. End poem.
Sorry, I accidentally zoomed in like ridiculously, and now I'm trying to get back to where I can actually read it. Oops, there we go. Okay. I liked this. I liked the way it was broken down into the different sections. I enjoyed that it had the "Sing me, O Muse," which is repeated quite a bit in ancient texts, and fits well with this, that and yet still they sing, because yes, we still do tell these stories. We still do have what was once sung around a campfire, was sung in halls, and maybe we don't always sing it anymore, but the stories are retold and retold, and in a way we're bringing up the ghosts of that war, because we are keeping the memories, although probably changed a lot, alive. We are, like, so many years later, still telling the story of Troy. And, I don't believe that there were actually the gods and goddesses in that war, but I feel like when you're in that situation, it probably did feel like there must have been some kind of like divine hand playing with things. And, it's such a, like, it's a huge ordeal that you're in. And to have the confidence that, like, Poseidon's on your side, or to be able to blame him not being, when the going gets rough, then it's, I don't know. I think there's probably some truth to all of these tales that get passed down and passed down. There historically was war in those areas. So, it's interesting. I'm curious how much is real and how much is myth. And I'm sure that has been studied a lot, trying to figure out how much is provable to have happened. But it's interesting how we still sing a song of war. Where is it? That, like, it really makes a beautiful image out of something horrible. Like, while blood cascades like summer rain upon those rolling sands. Like, if you just had the cascades like summer rain upon the rolling sands, you're picturing something beautiful. But then it's blood. So that changes things. Unless you're a vampire. And that second part I really enjoyed. And we that lead, what crowns our heads but slaughter. And that regret. And I think this is one of those things that a lot of people argue is very different in the movie than in the books, because in the book he still seems to me like he's the arrogant, full of hubris guy who, like, doesn't see how much he messed up, whereas, like, in the newest movie, he's regretting his role. He's feeling bad about how things went, and realizing that maybe they were the bad guys, maybe they are the people from the sea. And that's a hard thing to realize, that you think of yourself as a hero, and maybe you're not. So worrying about the crowns being the basically that you're responsible for that slaughter, is, I thought that that's a great thing to consider. That this makes sense to me, that a person should feel guilty like that, and the film showed that. And people debate whether it did in the Homer's text, because it's somewhat possibly influenced by modern sensibilities. But I mean, there had to be some questioning of things, even if you're full of yourself and, like, proud of your accomplishments. You still got to be like, but a lot of my men died. Even if you're not, like, worried about the other team, you gotta feel bad about the fact that, like, he's the only one who survives out of all of the people on his journey. That's brutal. So you have to feel the weight of that responsibility when you're the only survivor. There's another part I want to talk about. And, like, it's just feeling so tiny amongst the world, as, like, there's so much stuff happening. a leaf adrift on waters of the flood. Like, you think that he's like this big main character hero guy, but in the context of like how many people were in that war and in that area journeying, he's just a leaf adrift, a beautiful, interesting leaf, but just a leaf. And to claim a bounty washed in idle blood. This had a lot of depth to it, and I really, really enjoy it. I'm liking all of these, and it's going to be difficult to judge because like every time I hear one, I'm like, oh, I'm going to add that to my thing. Soon everything's a finalist, and then what do I do?
Everyone's a finalist.
Yeah. All poetry actually really limits me now on what I can do in terms of like awards and like adding things afterwards. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted to add honorable mentions and I couldn't.
Yeah. It's different. I mean, this is a good point. I don't know that anyone has really mentioned this, the people who write for our contests. But yeah, since the website changed on allpoetry.com, the judging and contest creation and monitoring is much different than it used to be. When I had left, I intended to keep all of, to go to Alaska for the summer. I intended to keep like all of my contests open. But they changed it. So now that you can only extend it for so long. And I get why they did that. I mean, it makes sense to a point, right? You don't want someone just keep extending and extending and extending their contests. But at the same time, it's like, well, I knew I was going to be gone for an extended period of time. So I actually intended them to, stretch.
Yeah. And you had asked me to judge them, which I was totally fine doing.
And now you couldn't.
I couldn't. I used to be able to, and now I can't. I could, put my ranking and it will show up in the thing as like what I said and then what whoever else said. So if you co-judge something, it kind of like adds up the different things. But the person who made the contest has to approve the final order of things.
Yes.
So it didn't let me do it.
Yeah. So for anyone wondering what's going on. Also, the new contest limit that you can have is 3, and it used to be 5. So,
it makes it hard for us to be prepared. It really does. Because I used to have like 5 at all times, and now it's like I gotta hurry up and judge them because it's not gonna let me make another one.
Yeah, it's really a thing. Yeah. So it's made things a bit crazier. So I'm glad you're pointing it out because I don't think anyone really has. But yeah, things have definitely changed on the back end too, for contests. Yeah, some of it I really like, and other parts of it are difficult to adjust. But that's the thing about change, right?
Yeah, so. I think we'll eventually adjust, but please bear with us as we figure out how this is going to work for our rhythm of getting things done.
Yeah, because I was a batch contester for sure. I would create all of them at one go and then just slowly dole them out, and now that doesn't really work. So I'm like, oh no. So we'll get it figured out. Anyway, my opinion on this piece, I thought this was interesting because at first glance, it feels like just kind of an embodiment and rereading of the Odyssey itself. Just kind of a pointing out of piece. But the thing is while yes, it is like these are events like happening in Homer's epic, they don't have to be, right? That they could very easily be about anything. Well, not anything, but like war in general. Not, obviously this isn't like my brother's wedding. I certainly hope not. But like, the past is war. It's so true. When you take history classes and things like that, there's a lot of focus on war. because that's the establishment of socio-political boundaries for the most part. So there's a lot of things that you can't really learn about without hearing about war. And history as is written by the winners. So it's always made out to be like this glorious thing, but it's not glorious. War is not glorious. It's traumatic and violent and stressful. It's a weird thing humans put themselves through. The past is war. Heal upon the necks of men. This violent uh, way that you get things by subjugating and killing others. And we that lead, what crowns our heads but slaughter. What is it that made you a leader? Killing people? But so often that's true, especially if you go back to like the feudal system, where the lords and landowners' whole jobs were to like protect the land via like war and violence. Which is kind of crazy to think about. What if that was the truth now? Like, oh, you want to buy some property? Well, then you need to lead the people who live in your home in battle. It'd be a bit crazy, right? But that's kind of how it used to be. And so much of the past, when we talk about history, when we talk about countries, when we talk about politics, all of these things really do tie into war. A lot of times in ways that you don't think about it, it ties into things that don't seem to be about war at all, but usually are. You want to talk about like art and culture. They're largely shaped by war, from like where pigments and materials come from to what the subjects of that art are, and what, times of peace and times of war and the impact they had on the development and changing landscape of those things. It's really hard to talk about the past without talking about war. Visions of home, the things that people think about while they're in the throes of war. They want to go home. They want to live through it and go back to the place they're from. Everyone. Most people don't want to. I don't know too many people that are just like, this is fantastic. This is what I want to do every day of my life. It's just be in the trenches killing people. Maybe there's a few, but they're pretty psychopathic. For the vast number of people, that is not, what they want to do. They want to go home. And then yet still they sing. Everyone dies. And you're kind of haunted by these ghosts. A life described, a prophecy fulfilled. And from the veil these ghosts of war step out upon another shore to sing once more of how our blood is spilled. So even after all of the people who fought the war are long and gone, this is what they'll remember. People don't really, you don't sit there and read history books, for the most part. There are some exceptions, but that are about like, and this is a time of peace, and it was really great, and everyone slept really snugly in their bed, and it was wonderful. They ate tasty food. Like, nobody's reading those history books. Just the lovely peaceful days of the gentry aren't really like the books that people gravitate towards, either in historical context or in just general reading. Like fiction it needs some kind of conflict. It can't all be fluff. It just can't. Cottagecore only goes so far. It still needs some kind of story going on. At least in my opinion. I think there are probably some out there that are much more tolerant of just reading about like fluffy bunnies, happy days. But, mostly no. So I think, this is interesting because it takes something historical and it really kind of generalizes it to apply to most of history. So I thought it was great, right? I enjoyed the rhyme and the flow of it too. It does say in the footnote that it is a bear sonnet and it's ballad-ish, which I thought was funny. So, I enjoyed the meter for sure.
Ballad-ish makes me want to hear it as like a rock song. Even though that's not what they mean, but like
No, it's not.
it's not. But I want to hear it that way. I feel like we should hire a musician, and I say this as if we had a budget. To clarify, Babbler and I do not get paid.
No.
That like none of the people working behind the scenes, like our wonderful Pam, who's doing our things, we don't get paid for this.
No.
We're a volunteer. So when I say we're going to hire a person, I joke, obviously. Hire someone to play our stuff to music. I think that could be kind of excellent. We could get Dan.
True. If he wants to volunteer.
You could do the drums.
Ballad-ish. It's just rock drums. That's
it's just
it.
rock drums.
It's just hair metal drums. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, they had drums on the warships.
Yeah.
It
I'm just
helped
saying.
you all row at the same time. For real, they had that.
No, I know they did. It's just, it's not the same kind of ballad. It's just
I know.
I think we're stretching that ish quite a bit.
Yeah. What can I say? It's important for me to stretch, and since I don't stretch my body, I got to stretch my my thoughts out of whack.
Just ish. By the way, ish I think would be a great name for a band.
Yeah.
I'm listening to ish.
Which also it feels like means something different in different places, because reading Australian stuff, I find ish is used as like a swear.
Yes. Because it's like shit, but like backwards. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Which was like a new thing for me not too long ago, because I always thought of it as like almost is what it means. And then people be like, oh, this ish. And I'm like, huh? I'm a little slow catching on the swear sometimes. What I really love is that kids are starting to use AI as an insult. Like, you know how everyone was saying sus for a while because of the game Among Us? Now, if the kids think that you're like sketchy, they go, oh, that's so AI.
I don't mind that.
No, me either. It's like their way of saying you're being fake.
Yeah.
The kids are all right.
I've seen quite a few things lately that make me think the kids are all right.
Yeah. They're thinking more critically than the adults sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what was I doing? I was getting the next poem ready. So this is Odyssey by Kianza Winter. Kiazina Winter. I'm sorry, I probably said that wrong. Odyssey. Yes, the king of travelers across the sea. Odyssey. That's me. I stand before you now, the sea-born adventure you have been waiting to hear. This is how it began. I spoke to my companions. My companions, listen to me. When one goal is reached, we cannot stop. For the hunger of a heart that can never be filled, we must keep moving. Life is a double-edged sword. In the sea, inside these whirlpools, our little ship may be small, but the waves themselves will become our road. My companions, is there no sail? We row with oars. If there is no sail, we row with oars. If there are no oars, we row with our hands. When our hands grow tired, one of us will hold another's hand. Even when the waves rise, they remain beneath our boat. As long as we do not let go of the boat, the sea cannot defeat us. We will keep going. One day, when we return home, we will speak of these nights, these waves, these losses, and say, back then, we will tell the story again, won't we? And now, here before you, it may seem that the king of travelers, Odyssey, is the one telling the story. I know. Yes, I knew. I can never forget that day. That day, the sea was no longer the sea. It was a gambling table where lives were placed as the stakes. I knew that when I chose the rocks, the scissors would close around me. The helm in my hands was, at that moment, the lives of my men. Do not show your fear, especially not to your companions. Fear kills you before you die. So I swallowed my fear and lived. I hid my fear and set the ship under sail. After that, the sea grew silent. One by one, they left me. Some saying goodbye, some without a goodbye, some simply remaining behind. And when I was the only one left upon the ship, the sea grew loud again with voices. You chose this. You walked this path. You crossed it. What was it all for? I know. Is life supposed to teach us not to cry when we have to let go? My companions. These are my tears. They are for you. When my tears mixed with the sea, the voices that once called my name disappeared, one by one. One oar, a torn piece of sail, and me, alone. Where should I go? I no longer knew. But still, a ship with only one man aboard must keep sailing towards home. Then the sea asked me, Who are you still sailing for? When life confronts you with questions that have no answers. What will you do, Odyssey? I must find the answer. In this question, what is home? I do not know. I know only one thing. I must go home. I am the king of travelers across the sea. Odyssey, aren't I? And I returned to where home was. When Odyssey stood before you, I began to wonder, what is home? Is it a garment stitched together from flesh and blood? Or is it a refuge of the soul where I can lay open everything I have lost? All the things I left behind on the day I departed, the voices that can never return, the names buried beneath the sea, a man who carries all of these things within him. Has he found home? Has he truly arrived? I do not know. But standing before the door of home, I remember my companions, the ones who once said, when we get home, we will tell this story again. I want to hold them inside that home and never let them go. Did I return to a door that had been waiting for me, or to a place that only reminds me of those I lost? And you, the Odyssey that crossed the sea, is this man still the same man who once left? Or is he, Odyssey, the man who left a part of himself behind the sea? Is Odyssey not the name of a man who has arrived home, but the name of a man who must keep traveling without ever stopping, just to find his way home? What will your Odyssey look like? As for me, I am the king of the travelers across the sea. I am Odyssey, a sea, a journey, and I am still preparing to sail again. End poem.
This is an interesting piece. There were there were pieces for me that I think were unintentionally comedic, and I don't think they were intended to be comedic. They were just, my mind takes things and runs in strange directions. So, so first I thought this was interesting that it says Odyssey and not Odysseus. So it's like, is this not the embodiment of Odysseus? Is this like the journey itself speaking to us? The trip itself. Um, I thought that was interesting. That it's not Odysseus, it's Odyssey. Um, and then at the end, that narration flips. That or they're talking to themselves, because it says, uh, is Odyssey. Let's see, and you, the Odyssey that crossed the sea, is this man still the same man who once left? Like, they're addressing themselves in the third person, you know, um, or is he Odyssey, the man who left a part of himself behind in the sea? It's almost like they've fragmented into multiple people, including the reader. Is Odyssey not the name of a man who has arrived home? They're no longer speaking like Odyssey is themselves. Um, what will your Odyssey look like? Like, everyone has their own personal man named Odyssey. Like, it's kind of interesting. I'm not exactly sure. It feels a little bit like I am Spartacus here at the end, because even then again at the end it says, I am the king of travelers across the sea. I am Odyssey. I'm a journey. Like, and everyone has their own journey. Is that what we're getting at? Um, I'm not entirely certain. I just thought it was really interesting that we went from this first person perspective of Odyssey to a multitude of Odysseys. I get like the Spider-Man meme going on. Other parts I thought were interesting. This is the part that got like mentally okay, as a person who visualizes things that I hear, this got interesting to me. If there is no sail, we row with oars. Okay, that's logical. If there are no oars, we row with hands. So I'm now picturing a bunch of men, sailors, rowing with their hands. And I'm like, okay, well, that seems like pain in the ass, but, visually, okay. When our hands grow tired, one of us will hold another's hand. So now I'm picturing them, like, rowing with the other rower's hands, or, like, holding their hands as they row. Visually that got interesting for me because my brain just started puzzle piecing, like, well, how would this work? What are we doing? When our hands grow tired of one of us will hold another's hands. Even when the waves rise, they remain beneath our boat. And now I'm like, where are these hands going? What are we doing? Visually that got a bit comedic to me. Just because, like I said, I'm an incredibly visual person, so trying to picture what the hell we're doing with our hands. As long as we not let go of the boat, the sea cannot defeat us. Just frantically trying to row while someone else is holding your hands. And then it got comedic again for me when we talk about, I knew that when I chose the rocks, the scissors would close around me. Because now I'm picturing like rock, paper, scissors. And I'm like, but rocks beat scissors. And I'm like, where's the paper at? And I know, I don't necessarily think that's where this is going. It's just where my brain went with it. Like, for me, there was some unintentional comedy to this piece. There's also a lot of grief to this piece, as all the companions leave, die or what have you. Is life supposed to teach us not to cry when we have to let go? And I don't think so. I don't think life is trying to teach people not to cry when you have to let go. I think the meaning of the tears is that you cared. It's that grief is about loss. And I think really that life teaches you that crying is good. But that's my perspective. Sad things happen and it's okay to be sad because that's part of life. But all these people missing until there's just one person left, and you get to the end of this journey returned, and I returned to where home was. And I thought that was interesting too, because it's where home was, not where home is, where this is past tense. It's not home anymore. I began to wonder, what is home? Is it a garment stitched together from flesh and blood? Is home a meat suit? I don't. My mental imagining is literal with this piece for some reason, and I think it might be like the short sentence structure is what makes me picture it like so literally in my imagination. I thought that was really interesting because I'm like, it's like a garment stitched together from flesh and blood. But then I took that and was like, well, does that mean like, is home your own body? Or is home a place made for you of your family? You know, is it something that's made up of all the people who've died? There's a lot of questions about home being a garment stitched together from flesh and blood. Like, it's pretty visceral and gnarly imagery, that can mean quite a few different things. It could mean your body itself, could mean your family, it could just mean all the people you killed or died, or all kinds of things, you know. Um, but certainly home can change. This feels like for this narration, that home is in the past, because all of the things that made home home are not there anymore. Stuck in this memory. I remember my companions, the ones who once said, when we get home we will tell this story again, and like, they're not here, so it doesn't really feel like home. It's, a place that only reminds me of those I lost, which is then when we get to the fragmented Odyssey. I don't know, this could mean so many different things, just depending on your reading of it. I thought it was a really interesting piece. I will say it is a fairly long piece too. You know, uh, this short structure. So, about who pushing through this journey and then realizing at the end all of the things that you've lost, and questioning whether or not it was worth it, and whether or not you still are the person who left. So, did you even make it home? Might be the real question behind the piece. So, interesting, right?
And I think that's the question that, like, the whole Odyssey questions in some ways is, did you make it home? After all of that, is it really you in the end? Have you been changed too much for it to be your home? I, like you, had some trouble figuring out whether Odyssey was on purpose Odyssey, whereas sometimes I thought like it really should have been Odysseus. I like, at first I was thinking that they are mistaking Odyssey as his name when he is Odysseus. And about half the time I thought that, but then I went back and forth because I was like, but also maybe he is the Odyssey. Maybe the journey has become who he is. He is the journey because the journey has formed him into a new person. The journey is like a personification of him, or he is now just a bunch of pieces of the journey that have been stitched together in that whole the home made of meat that you were talking about. It's like, that's like his body is now like the scars of his journey, and that is who he is. He is the Odyssey rather than he is Odysseus, which is a bit of a confusing thing because like, Odyssey is a term that we have used naming it after Odysseus, who went on this journey. But that's a complicated like chicken and the egg thing. But yeah, I was torn about whether it should have been Odysseus, or if it's purposely Odyssey, because he is the journey, then that's really intriguing to me. I'm just not entirely sure about whether it was all purposeful. Because sometimes it really works well and other times not as clearly to me. If there's no sail, we row. If there's no oars, we use our hands part. Reminded me of on Firefly, which is like my favorite show ever. There's this one soldier who they help. I think his name was Tracy. And he talks about how, like, if you can't run, then you walk. And if you can't walk, then you crawl. And if you can't crawl, then you ask for help. And maybe someone will carry you, or something like that. It wasn't exactly that, but this part reminded me of that. And that might not just be a Firefly thing. That's probably something that it's just like referencing, and I only know it through Firefly because I'm not like an army person. But it felt like that. And the holding each other's hands, well, I understand it would create a weird visual for you, Babbler, as the way you picture things. For me, it was about like supporting each other. If we struggle,
Yes.
hopefully we have each other's back, kind of thing.
I did get that too, but that's just not the first image that came to mind.
Yeah. Yeah. And then trying not to let go of the boat, although sometimes letting go is the best thing you can do, depending on where you are. But yeah, then there is the King of Travelers Odyssey, and I feel like that should have been Odysseus. But I don't know. It baffles me. And then when it's talking about choosing the rocks, so that part is I can think of it clearly. It's when they have to choose the whirlpool or the narrow passageway. Now, do I remember the names of those demigod creatures? No, I do not right now. But they were like sibling monsters. One the whirlpool, one the scary rock monster. And I understand what you meant when you think of like rock, paper, scissors, because when it said rock and then scissors, I totally went there. And part I remember is that what they had been told was if they go to the whirlpool, everybody dies because the ship goes down. If they choose the rocks, some people die. But you have to choose for it to be the lesser of the evils, because if you try to avoid it altogether, it'll be everybody dies. So I think this recognizes that when it talks about like, I held in my hands at that moment the lives of my men. You don't show your fear. So he knew that some people weren't going to make it, and he had to struggle through that decision. It was funny because we were talking about this earlier today, my friend and I, and trying to figure out because these things are likely based on like there is a real place in Greece that has like a place with like frequent like stormy water there and a narrow passageway. So it made sense that they would have the two things. And it was like, okay, so the water monster is an obvious thing. There's the whirlpool there. But the rock monster, so my friend was like, what do you think that was? And my theory is it was because it's such a narrow passageway, if you kind of like brush against the sides at all, it creates a rock slide. And so the rocks from the top of the hill fall down and like knock a couple people off the ship. And so that was seen as like you're being punished for being there, like a creature is getting you. So I'm getting sidetracked off of this, but I was just, because we were talking about it earlier when I saw chose the rocks and the scissors would close around me. That's what I was picturing, was trying to figure out like what actually happened there.
Well, I picture it.
That was really weird for me. That monster was odd looking.
I picture it more like if you've ever gone whitewater rafting, when a rock comes up in the shore, like you hit rocky patches, it pushes the water on either side of it. And it's usually one side or the other, unless the rock is perfectly in the center. And on the side where there are no rocks is where you get the undertow and the whirlpools and the eddies that suck you down. But if you go
Okay.
over the rocks, it rips your hull up. Like you sink. But those are your only two options, because that's the width of the river or the channel.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the rocks itself that's pushing the current that creates the whirlpool, because the water is diverting.
Oh.
So
Okay.
in my mind, that's how that works. It's not like falling rocks. It's the rocks are breaking the flow, especially in a tide. You'll get like pulled right over them,
Okay.
and it's gonna rip the bottom of whatever your vessel is up real bad. So you got to pick. Like, do we risk getting pulled down in the water, drowning, or do we get hung up on the rocks? So
Yeah, that makes more sense because like I always had trouble picturing it in when I read it, and then in the movie, it's like they're getting picked up by a rock monster, and like if you're getting picked up by the rock, that flows better. Okay.
but anyway, that's how I imagine it, because I'm just like, well, with how much time I've spent on rivers and on the ocean, that's typically the water flowing.
Yeah. I spend no time on water, so I will, trust you on that one.
Sorry, didn't mean to derail you. I'm just like, I don't.
I was already derailed myself, so don't you worry about that.
Was there a train near here, or?
Rarely in my mind. I really like the part where it says, when I was the only one left upon the ship, the sea grew loud again with voices. Because when you're alone, that's when your thoughts can get you. When there was no longer like people working together to survive, and you're talking about things, even if you're arguing about things, when it's just you, then those voices in your head of all the people who you think blame you for their deaths, or like just all of the negative things that have happened build up, and that is overwhelming. So the voices of the sea growing loud, I thought that was really well done, especially because then it like kind of points out some of the things they might thought. You chose this, you walked this path, you crossed it. Like this is something that he decided to be a part of, and not everyone had a choice. I mean, like he was pressured into it for sure. But like as the kind of leader of Ithaca, he, kind of pressured his people to do it. They had the lottery thing where they got to choose, but still, yeah. There was a part near the end I wanted to talk about. This is just standing at the door of home and wondering, like, has it been waiting for me? Like, am I going to be like welcomed back home, or is the place that I remember completely gone? Because sometimes when you go back to your hometown or whatever, it's, if it's been too long, you don't feel like you fit in there anymore. And I mean, this is definitely a thing that comes up in the Odyssey, because like the suitors have taken over the palace, and like he doesn't know if Penelope is going to be still, available to him. It's been 20 years. It's kind of a miracle to him that she hasn't moved on. And you don't know if your people will still be happy with you, having been without you for so long. And he does go home to a disaster. But the most important part here, I think, is this man still the man who once left? Are you still you? And that's what makes me think that the Odyssey part was on purpose, because it says, or is he Odyssey? It's like he's no longer Odysseus. He is Odyssey. He has not is Odyssey not the name of a man who has arrived home? Because he's not Odysseus. He's still on his trip in his mind, and maybe always will be. So I've kind of come around to the idea of Odyssey was on purpose.
Yeah. Like I said, it went back and forth for me, like I felt like they were saying the journey, or they were using it as a stand-in for his name in some places. Well, anyway.
What do we have next?
We have Sifocals by Poetry and Percussion. And I'll give this one a read. I have 2 eyes, yet I see with singular vision, as all who walk the earth follow the path they create. And Helios lights the world to guide and delight, entice and tempt, out of my home, adventure, the hypnotically cavernous world dome of blue and white. But there is no shelter, only the bombardment of temptation, and the light devours and destroys, distracts and deviate. And once was me, he's gone. Once I see, once I know, the one who didn't is gone. And at night, Selene, the mistress, teases and tempts, tickles and tricks, just enough to want to know more. Eos, the herald, find the souls for the great eye to lure. But I am strength, as I am still partially me. I stare down the light, force it to endure my gaze, and eventually, nothing, blindness. I am free to be me. The light no longer will force what I see. The universe is angry at the blindness I caused. I stumble, I helpless, I target, I feel the universe. Angry for my defiance, I hear so much better. I hear with precision, I hear my home, of which always enticed to leave, being attacked, a parallel to Helios' defeat. Hear, feel, taste, smell. I'm a mastery of weapons. Somehow, I still see what I want, and the light is powerless when I am home. There is no one that will take it away from me. End poem.
I like this because it feels like he's talking about how in blinding the Cyclops, he kind of takes away his own true perception of things. That while he might have physically blinded someone else, he in some way was the one with tunnel vision, because he was so focused on getting the Cyclops that he messed things up. I mean, like, they would have gotten away safely, most of them, if he hadn't taken that last shot. It's like things are fine, they're getting away, and he just turns around and does that one more shot that like makes everyone chase after them, because that's just, he's got to do that all the time. And in a way, he's the blind one to do that. I have to say that the whole Cyclops scene, as much as it was beautifully done in terms of like they used a giant puppet instead of CGI, and like they did a fantastic job in the movie, but they cut out the part that I love where he's like, nobody has blinded me. His brothers are like, well, that's good, because Odysseus has told him that his name is nobody. Like, that was such a like key point that I loved when I read this when like I was very young, and it's not there anymore, and I'm like, I love that part so much. How could you skip that? I like the title Sifocals. I'm so used to having like bifocals or trifocals. Sifocals that I see with a singular vision. I like how he has those pauses where is gone, and then there's like the dots, and because of the way that like that ends the section of the page where I have to scroll down, it kind of seems like it's really done, and then it's like scroll. No, there's more. And then shows his knowledge of Greek mythology, mentioning Eos, which is the dawn. Is it the dawn? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the dawn. I'm like, great knowledge of mythology. Do I have knowledge of mythology? I thought I did. Takes me a minute sometimes. I stare down the light and force it to endure my gaze, and eventually nothing blindness. And the thing is, if you stare at the sun, it's not good for your eyes. And this feels like almost like a hubris moment described right there. It's like Icarus getting too close to the sun. Well, if I stare at the sun and like challenge it to be bright, then I'm going to be blind. And sometimes we need to learn to look away. The universe is angry at the blindness I caused. And yeah, by hurting the other one, you end up stumbling. When it talks about I am a mastery of weapons, it's mentioning all the senses, as if your hearing and feeling and taste and smell are your weapons. You can use those against like everything that you face. They are the way that you can attack, or the way that you protect yourself. I think that's a great use of mastery of weapons, because those things are ways that your body naturally has built-in defenses. And the vision is very notably not there, because the vision has been the whole theme of everything else. And that idea of like, when you're home, that can't be taken away from you. But maybe it can. I don't know. Are you ever really safe from maybe the hubris that caused it all? What did you think?
I enjoyed this piece, but I took it, I think, pretty differently than you did.
That's okay.
I almost took this as like a perspective of Polyphemus himself, the Cyclops, and not wanting to leave his cave and getting really tired of things trying to get him out of his cave, including all the light of the world. You know, he likes hanging out in his dark cave. So you've got Helios, the sun god, you've got Selene, the moon, you've got Eos, the dawn, all trying to draw him out. And he's just like, no, I don't want to go. And like staring them down until he goes blind. And instead of feeling like injured, wounded, or limited by that, he's like, finally, let me go back to my cave. Which I kind of enjoyed. Instead of it being like an injury or harm, he's like, oh good, you have no temptation over me anymore at all. To the point where it's like almost like the three light gods are made into like their own siren. Helios lights the world to guide and delight, entice and tempt out of my home. The sunshine is calling him out of his cave. But there's no shelter. Only the bombardment of temptation, and the light devours and destroys. All the things that I wanted to do, that I enjoy in my cave, I can't do out in the sun. And looking at all the other adventurers, like, it's not like great things are befalling them. It's a lot of like war and trial and struggle. And it's like, I don't really want that. I was perfectly happy in my cave. And once was me, he's gone. Once I know, the one who didn't is gone. He enjoyed living in ignorance. He enjoyed not knowing these things. But now that he's come out into the world and seen them, he's known them, and he can't unknow them. He's changed by experience. And at night, Selene, the mistress, teases and tempts, tickles and tricks, just enough to want to know more. So again, being lured out. The cave is almost like a metaphor for ignorance, a safe place, a comfort zone. And Eos, the herald, finds souls for the great eye to lure. And it feels like he's losing himself, but I'm strength, I'm still partially me. So he stares down the light, like he's intimidating the light, and his vision gets burned out, but it frees him from the temptation. I am free to be me. The light will no longer force what I see. Stumbles, I helpless, I target, I feel, which I find funny. It's just like very grammatically, Cyclops. And his reliance now on other senses, the hearing, and finding his way back home. And he makes it back home, and it says, "My home, of which always enticed to leave, being attacked." like he finally gets rid of all the temptation of the light, and now his home is being attacked. Hear, feel, taste, smell, I am a mastery of weapons. And then it says, somehow I still see what I want. And the light is powerless when I am home. There is no one that will take it away from me. It's like willful ignorance, choosing to live in the dark. That's how I read it anyway. Cyclops and his yearn to remain ignorant in his dark little cave, not caring that he's blind or unknowing of the ways of the world.
Okay, I love your interpretation, and I now subscribe to it. I'm sold.
Us.
That was. I'm like 90% sure you're right now, and I'm like you're such a good like convincing voice of that. Like, yeah. You should like be a debater or something, like champion what I'm like, this is what this actually means. I'm like, yes it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never been in debate. I like to articulate my opinion, at least.
Well, you're very good at that. You are an articulate person. What was I gonna say? Yeah. You're the articulate one tonight for sure. I'm like, my brain is buffering. It's like that little like thing showing that it's waiting for something. And yeah. Oh my God. I had such a dumb moment earlier. So I put my phone on airplane mode because I didn't want it to ring while I was at the author visit thing. And I at the end of it, they're inviting me to join their writing group on Discord. So they're like showing me the QR code, and I'm trying to scan it, and it's not working. And then like later, I'm trying to order my U-Ride home, which is like Uber, but here. It's the app's not working. And then I realized like, oh yeah, I'm in airplane mode. And I'm like, oh, that would be why the QR code was
Yes.
Oh God, it's so embarrassing. I don't know why I admit these things, but because it's anonymous, I can ramble.
Semi-anonymous.
And then later when they're asking me my writing stuff, I'll be like, oh, this is my podcast. And they'll listen to it and be like, wow. That was that girl.
Was that about me?
You're so vain. You probably think the song is about you. Okay. Our next poem, I just posted twice in a row. Oh, no, you did, and then I did. Okay. The Odyssey of Excuses by Miriam Gilmore. I was in 3rd grade when I first heard The Odyssey. It stuck with me for life, especially those episodes that rang true, like spearing the Cyclops in the eye, navigating dangerous waters between Scylla and Charybdis.
Did we lose you? I think we lost.
It was the sirens, though, who really grabbed my attention. So ardently, Odysseus longed to hear their songs. He had his crewmen lash him to the mast, while all of them stopped up their ears so they could safely sail right by the danger, unaffected by that magical seduction so deliciously torturing our hero. I imagined him straining against the ropes, eyes and muscles bulging, a drop of drool on his lips. I crave music too, especially at night when I'm alone, and I just can't get to sleep. But I don't think I'd let desire for sexy sounds keep me one moment from my waiting, troubled spouse and upset son. Odysseus was a music lover, I guess, but all these adventures seemed to me to suggest an element of choice. Was fearless, bold Odysseus really longing for Penelope these 20 years, or was he merely having fun and finding ways to put off going home? I wondered. And
Well, I really liked this, right? The Odyssey of excuses. Just a load of bullshit. I was in the third grade when I first heard the Odyssey. And that's really interesting because that's really young to go listen to the Odyssey, or read it. It's very long. I wonder if it was like an abridged version or a more child-friendly version. Who knows? I'm saying this as someone who read Oliver Twist when I was in kindergarten. So, you know, entirely plausible. It stuck with me for life, especially those episodes that rang true. The parts that felt real. Which spearing Cyclops in the eye is a really funny one to be the first one to point out ones that rang true. Like, how did that ring true? Like a one-eyed beast. Okay. Navigating dangerous waters. The things that felt more realistic. Ignoring how she turned his shipmates to swine and giving her 3 children. Yeah, that's that doesn't sound very good for Cersei. So, like, but aside from the obviously ridiculous stuff, oops, I like the little oops here. It's like a self annotation. And then thinking about the sirens. How much Odysseus wanted to hear the songs, to the point where he risked everything by being lashed to the mast, to hear them, because he wanted to hear them so badly that he just, forewent like any, the protections that obviously worked for other people. He was willing to risk a lot to hear the siren songs. This like eyes and muscles bulging, drops of drool on his lips. I found that like wonderfully descriptive. He's like half crazed, losing his mind tied to this mast. Followed by like, I crave music too, especially at night. It feels like such a sudden tone shift that it's like I imagine someone like in bed listening to music, like losing their shit, like like straining and like is kind of funny to me. Obviously they don't mean that, but they just like to listen to music in the evening when they're by themselves, and yet there's no way that they would be like, no, hold on, I need to listen to this song when their husband and kid are upset and distraught somewhere. That and I mean that's true. I can't imagine that, really not just music, but like most things, hey, we really need you to come home, and I'm just like, hold up, I need to listen to Ice Ice Baby one more time. Like, no. um like it seems like putting off getting home. Odysseus was a music lover, I guess, but all these adventures seem to me to suggest an element of choice, which is funny because we just talked about how like Odysseus slayed, went after the Cyclops, and he didn't really need to. Like he didn't need to. There are several things that were done here that he didn't need to do that extended the length of the journey because he prioritized those things over his family. Really, where was Penelope and his son on the bucket list of things? On the priority list? Pretty damn low if it took 20 years to get there. And I think there were quite a few times he could have left before when he did. Imagine if he really did care and he was like, okay, let's go. You know what? Nah, I think I'm going to stay home instead. That would be a way less interesting story, but at the same time, I enjoy the point that Miriam points out here. It makes me think of that saying I keep hearing more and more recently, that's just like, if he wanted to, he would. Yeah. How high a priority really was it to get home that it took 20 years? So I thought this was a clever take on the right. It's a nice sense of humor to it.
I agree. It does have that cleverness, and it is I mean, it's true. And it's a sad funny because I mean, poor Penelope, where yeah, it definitely does seem like, you know, he probably could have been more motivated and kept things going along better than he did. He wanted to be the hero. He wanted to have the attention for doing these quests. He wanted to be successful at it and be like have great stories to tell and have stories told about him. One thing they cut out of the movie was, now I could be mixing up my myths, but I'm pretty sure when he talks to the people in the underworld, he talks to Achilles, and Achilles asks Achilles if he made the right choices. And Achilles said that he should have chosen to live longer and not been as famous. He should have just, forgot about being remembered and lived longer, because now he died really relatively young, and he regretted it. And then that was supposed to be like a warning to Odysseus, like, get over yourself and go home. Don't try so hard to be like the memorable person. And he didn't learn. I'm grateful that Miriam put the names that I had forgotten earlier, the Scylla and Charybdis, which I still can't say properly, but those were the whirlpool and rock monster that I was blanking on the names for. And Circe is one of my favorite parts of the story. I find her very fascinating, and that's true in the book. And in the recent adaptation, I also thought she was like one of the coolest parts for sure. As much as it like disgusts me and I'm like gagging at the swine part, I loved it. It was so well done. The 3 children part gets cut out of quite a few stories, and it says in the AN that when she was a kid in 3rd grade, they listened to an adapted version that was meant for kids.
Okay. I'm like, wow, that's quite a school reading that to kids. But, you can also educate yourself outside of school. It's not like it was my kindergarten telling me to read Oliver Twist. That was all me.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I definitely read things earlier than I should have. And, like reflecting on them later, I didn't get the whole messages. Like I read things like the Odyssey, like the Divine Comedy, stuff like that, when I was too young to fully understand them. I understood the words. I had the vocabulary to do it. I understood the surface of what was happening, but I feel like not until I reread them later did I really appreciate like actually what the story was intending to give you. So even though it's really cool to read things when you're younger and get your, get exposed to things, it also is worth looking at them again when you're at a different point in your life and may interpret them differently. I thought the part about Odysseus choosing to hear that song and risking that danger is definitely something worth highlighting. So I'm glad that Miriam did in this. And then the straining to hear it. And I like that it wasn't just like a beautiful song. It's desire for sexy sounds, because like the sirens were known for being like tempting, and they're like these beautiful mermaids who are like deadly in their temptation. So pointing out that is smart. But yeah, no matter how much he was tempted, is that really going to keep you away from your family? Because that is a choice. So I thought this was reflective of the challenges and what decisions had to be made in the Odyssey and what priorities were. So yeah, well done, Miriam. That's what we were getting at. Yeah. That was Miriam. Just looking what's next. We have one by I'm a Rima. So Babbler, I think it's your turn to read.
Yep, absolutely. This is Sirens by Ima Rima. And it goes like this. On an island we sirens live, luring ships by singing our song. Then slaughter to sailors we give. But with one ship our plan went wrong. Odysseus on his ship did order wax in ears of his crew, then tied him to a mast as bid, for he yearned to hear our song. True. Odysseus sailed past, we sang. He heard and begged to be let free, but his crew did obey him, dang. Ship and all crew sailed on safely. Disappointed, ship got away. We're not used to such clever prey. End poem.
It was fun to have this from the other perspective, because for the most part, we're hearing things through Odysseus' perspective, or at least our reflection on Odysseus as an audience. And here we have the other side of things. We have from the Sirens' perspective, and the recognition that, like, damn, this ship was more clever. They knew to avoid our song. Then that kind of regret of never getting to see that ship and never getting to devour those ones. So recognizes that it was a smart move. And yet they can feel a little bit proud that, like, Odysseus, even though he was smart enough not to get killed by them, he did want to hear them. And there's that, like, I can feel a pride of that in here. It's like, well, you know, he did yearn for us. And he did beg, but dang, I kind of like that it says dang. Dang! They went safely. It was fun to have a different perspective. And it was fun to have some rhyming here. This was nicely done. The dang thing makes me laugh a little bit because I've been doing Duolingo, practicing my French, and it always amuses me when it wants me to like softcore swear. Like it doesn't make you actually swear, but it's just like things like darn and gosh and like things like it adds things that I wouldn't like think that I want to translate, but because they'll say it and I'm like, what does that mean? And then I look it up and it's like shoot, and I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know. That dang made me think about like I gotta learn the softcore French like upset noises.
That's funny.
What did you think of this?
I liked this. Yeah, it was the opposite, obviously, perspective. We're hearing it from the sirens. You know, like all happy to kill people, lure them with their vocal renderings. You know, to be like stymied by Odysseus telling his crew to put wax in their ears, and yet he himself like really wanted to hear the song. You know, so at least they had an audience, you know, but it's like it sucks that the audience listened to him when he said, you know, wouldn't listen to him when he said they wanted them to let him go, you know. Yeah, the dang was kind of funny. Disappointed ship got away. We're not used to such clever prey. Like usually the song works and they don't have to worry about this. Although that's kind of funny to think about, right? Like, how many people have they killed, like, in the same area, and Odysseus is the first one to tell his crew to put wax in their ears? Like, they're like, oh, by the way, there's these singing things that'll kill you. We just risk it every time. It's fine. It seems kind of crazed, you know. Not a lot of.
I don't think that message gets passed along though, because people die. So the only reason he knew it was because he talked to the people who were already dead in the underworld.
Right, but like, there are other people who have talked to people that have died. I mean, as weird as that is to say. There are a strange number of people who managed to make it to the underworld in Greek mythology. But, yeah, interesting that it's just like, yeah, we're stymied this time. Well, poo. They're like not even that bitter. Darn it.
Sailors will come across pretty soon.
Yeah. Don't tell everybody. Get out of here. That's just kind of funny. It's cute. It's a cute, I don't know. There's something like weirdly lighthearted about it, despite the fact that it's about like sirens trying to eat people. Like, well, or I guess we don't really know what they do with the people, but they lure them into the ocean at least.
Yeah, I had it in my head that they eat them too, but I have no evidence of this. Like, I can't actually think of that. Did I actually know that, or is that just what my imagination says?
Yeah, I don't know that. Like, they lure them into the sea, but they quite easily could just drown. I mean, it could just be hypothermia killing them. They could just be singing for shits and giggles to see how many men killed themselves trying to get there. Somehow
that seems so much worse. Like, it's evil if it's just for fun. If it's like their source of food, I can forgive it.
I kind of like the idea now of just these like women singer sirens sitting on the shore just like eating chicken or bird or whatever as they like lure men into the ocean to see how many of them drown themselves trying to get to them. It's like prank phone calls of like a devious nature. Oh, watch this. I bet you these guys will jump. It's even funnier if it's not song and it's just like moaning noises, because they do say that it's like sultry, right?
Like it's just like the hi, I'm a mermaid. Come over and see me.
Right? Like, hey guys. Yeah. Watch this. They're gonna totally swim over here and they can't possibly make it because it's like 20 miles. Check this out. I don't know, I kind of like it. The Mean Girls edition of sirens. They don't even eat the men.
It's just like, hold my beer, I can try this.
Yeah, it's just a game.
Wow.
I mean, what's a siren supposed to do for entertainment, really?
Now I want to check if there's like books from their perspective. There's got to be something someone's written.
I mean, isn't that what The Little Mermaid is, kind of?
Sort of.
Yeah.
Mermaids have kind of shifted from they used to be evil in stories, and now they're all cutesy. Like most fairy tale creatures.
I mean, as a random side note, like I just finished writing like a book that is about sirens. This is just completely coincidental, but they're not like mer people. Like, they rip people's throats out and drink their blood. And they're not like, they're only very vaguely humanoid. It's a horror novel.
That you've written?
Yeah.
They're
not like luring, like it's not the same. And so it's funny because some people who've read it, like my friends and stuff, it's not like published or anything. I just write things for myself. But my friends will read it and they're just like, some people just call them the creatures. What's the creature? But yeah, anyway. It's a totally different take on sirens. They're not like mer people, like, at all. There's nothing cutesy or pretty about them. They're frankly horrific.
And yet it makes me so happy that you're writing this story.
Huh. It was fun. It was a fun write. Anywho.
I don't think we have time to read the one that I posted. We only have like 4 minutes. So I'm going to save that for next time. There will be 3 carryovers. Nope, 4 carryovers. And I'm not going to be here next week. I am getting older, and I'm not sure if that will mean that I'm busy or that I am having what I like to refer to as my 3/4 life crisis, because calling it a midlife crisis is a little unrealistic in my timeline. So it's my 3/4 life crisis.
2/3. Come on, 3/4. 2/3. Be some optimism here.
Okay. It's my 2/3 life crisis. I'm turning 40 next Tuesday. Yeah, I don't know if I'll be a little bit intoxicated or wild or, crying into my diary, but we'll see. And either way, I feel like I'll not be in a good headspace to do the show. So I'll just have to listen to it later.
Missing out on drunk Aphasiana, everyone.
Who knows? I might call in and just be a disturbance to you guys.
Anyway. But I will be here next week. And I've posted a contest, so please write to that. If you feel so inspired. It is based on our conversation from last week about OPI nail polish.
Oh, yay!
I took all of the OPI nail polish names and I created a random generator in Google Sheets that is linked in the contest. And so you'll just get an OPI color name. Please use that as inspiration to write a poem about whatever you want. So have fun. There's some pretty ridiculous ones in there. Honestly, it seems like a pretty fun prompt. Like, I would enjoy it anyway. So
yeah, I might try a couple of them.
There's some really silly names. So like, let's see. Let's just read the first few that I get here. I get Life is a Cabernet. That could be fun. I get Divine Swine. That could take you some places. In Pursuit of Purple. Yeah, there's all kinds of fun ones. There are like over 1,700 nail polish names. So, anyway. Find one. Be inspired. Go forth. Write poetry.
Awesome. I look forward to reading those, even though I won't be here. Keep writing.
Yes. Good night.